How is it going? Thank you so much for being here. Happy Monday. Again, if you're on here, hit the like button, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Also, shout out to you, Seth Man, with the generous support starting off the conversation, right? I really appreciate you. Again, thank you for being so generous. Good. Okay, guys, so you know the drill, like, share, subscribe. Anyways, I'm really excited about today's conversation. You guys know that I do my best to try to bring you guys information that is formed, backed up by the data. I don't pretend to be perfect, but I do my best to try to make sure that I'm giving you guys the right information. Politics is not one of those things where I pretend to be the expert at all. So my goal when we're having discussions that are political is to make sure that I am actually I'm dealing with people who are experts in the field or have a long history. So I'm really excited to bring on today's special guest. He's going to be talking about just Black conservatism, just conservatism in general, whether or not it is on the rise in the Black community and different trends that we can expect. Just a few housekeeping rules, guys. Please be respectful. We're not here to bash anybody, whether you are a Republican, whether you are a Democrat, whether you are politically agnostic, wherever you are at. This channel is welcome for you. Today, I just am here to listen and learn and understand. So I firmly believe that two people can have a conversation and agree. Even if they disagree, they can still respect one another. So please make sure that you are nice and respectful in the comment section, even if you do not agree with what you hear. And if you do agree, then that's great. Also, I have many questions going on there. So as always, the best way to ensure that your question, if you have some, the best way to ensure if you have a question that you want to be answered is to send to the super chat, just because you guys know sometimes the chat has moved so fast. And as always, like, share, subscribe. You can find me in Cash App, Venmo, Share Day. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on the special guest and we will get started with the conversation. Hey.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going?
Everything is all good. Glad to be here. This is going to be a good conversation. I can feel it already.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure you have one to talk with me and inform me on what's going on and just ultimately sharing your point of view. So again, thank you so much. Shout out to you. So just to get right into today's topic, would you mind just describing yourself to the audience and your background in politics?
Okay, so basically, I'm just a guy that talks about news, and I try to make things that are kind of complicated when you're talking about news and politics. I make things that are kind of complicated easier for people to understand, your regular person, because a lot of guys, when they turn on Fox, CNN, or whatever, they're speaking in news speak, maybe even lawyer speak. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening. They're talking about this House bill, this Senate bill. You don't know what's going on. So I make complicated things a little bit easier to digest and more relatable. Like, when I first came to YouTube back in like 2015, I was searching for a guy like me that could make things a little bit easier to just consume content.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really worried about producing it at that point. So I was like, all right, how about I just be that guy? And that's been my mission. So that's pretty much what I am. And as far as my background in politics, really, I didn't really have a background in politics, but I kind of was always around it. Okay. So both of my dad and my granddad were into it. Dad was like a community organizer, very liberal guy, but he was always into politics, always watching the news constantly. So I was always around that. My granddad was the same way. He was always in politics. People always knew him. He knew the first and only Black governor of Virginia, Douglas Wilder, and they had some business dealing together. So I would see them interact with people politically, and I would hear them talk about politics, but I was never really in it myself. I would just be around it. So it was always in me. And then I would watch the news and just kind of understand things a little bit differently than the average person because of what I'd already seen. So it made it easy for me to get on YouTube and just talk about politics that way, because I already had known about it just from being raised around it.
Okay, so you say you said your father, your grandfather, men in your family were very politically active and involved in the community, which kind of helped teach you, I guess, on the job, for lack of a better term.
Pretty much, exactly. I was just exposed to it. I was just around them. Like, boys typically, when they are young, and even men, but definitely boys, they're going to learn through observation.
Yeah.
Okay. You could teach them or whatnot, but when they observe things, they're going to absorb it. And that's pretty much what I did. So it's kind of second nature to me to understand these things differently than the average person.
Okay. Okay. No, that makes sense. Um, so who do you look up to as a Black conservative?
I probably would say like Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell was somebody that I was familiar with kind of early on, and then it kind of just I learned more about him and just like some of the economic stuff uh from Walter Williams, and then of course Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington,
Okay.
he spent time in West Virginia, and when he was up there, he was at my family's church because I'm from West Virginia too. I was born there.
Okay.
So he was at my family's church going all the way back to the 1800s. I had family there.
Okay.
They were at that church, African Zion, right there in Malden Rand. That's where I was born. So
Okay.
we go all the way back to that particular time. So guys like that, I would hear about coming up, and that was always just again, you hear about certain things, you're around certain things, you're exposed to it, and you absorb it.
Okay. Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, you said already out the gate, it's like you kind of were bred for this, for lack of a better term, based upon
Pretty
your
much, it was just I was born into it. It was just a natural thing that just kind of happened to me.
Okay. Okay. So are you a registered Republican?
Well, no, because you don't do that in Tennessee. So certain states you don't have to do that. Now, if I had to do it, I would be, but
Okay.
you don't have to register your party in Tennessee. But when you go to vote, what they're going to ask you is, do you want a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot? And I always say Republican.
Okay. Okay. So you said you're in Tennessee currently. I wasn't aware of that. I know in California you have to register. Why do you think Black people generally vote Democratic or are known to vote Democratic? What do you think drives that trend?
Well, there's a couple of things there, and I'm not going to say the person's name that told me this, but somebody gave me some information that I kind of want to bring into the mix. 70% of those who make under $30,000, below $30,000 do not vote at all. 70%. And we know there's an issue with poverty in the community. So
Yes.
a lot of us simply do not vote at all. And out of the ones that do vote, you got to understand who's voting and why. People that make a lot of money sometimes, they kind of feel like they kind of feel guilty about their station in life, and they want to do more for the quote unquote little guy. So they're going to vote Democratic because of social services, EBT welfare, WIC, TANF, all that kind of stuff. They want to vote for that. They think that the Democrats are for the poor, quote unquote.
Okay.
Which doesn't make any sense because, okay, if a party represents the poor, then like if they're for the poor, why would you want to vote for them? You want to vote for the party that'll make you get more money, that'll kind of advance you in life. I don't understand. It's like they automatically they link Democratic to poor, which again doesn't make any sense. But that's a lot of the reason why they do it. Also because of peer pressure, social pressure.
Okay.
If you vote Republican, you are all these racial slurs. I don't want to say in your channel, but you're all these things. You're a bad person. You hate Black people. It's the shaming. It's the guilt. It's like, if you don't vote Democrat, then you're not one of us. You know, your family's going to turn against you. So it's social pressure, peer pressure, all of that wrapped in it, and thinking you're doing the right thing for the so-called little guy, although you're not. And it's just kind of like tradition. My mom vote Democrat, my dad vote Democrat, granddad, everybody, I'm gonna vote Democrat. They don't really go far too back. They don't go too far back in history, though. They don't talk about the great granddad and great great granddad who they voted for. They might go back to the granddaddy at best in the 1950s and 60s, them voting Democrat and stop right there. But they don't really go too far beyond that.
Okay. But could that be just because, Black people weren't able to vote for quite some time? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Well, we could vote because that's something else I was talking about on my live stream. I had a caller kind of challenge me on voting. I was like, okay, when did we get the right to vote as Black people? We said in the 1960s. It's like, no, that's not true. That's when the Voting Rights Act passed in 1964, I believe, civil rights era, or 68, one of those in the 60s. All that did was eliminate some of the things that may have been a hindrance to blocking, that it may have been a hindrance to Black people voting, like some of the poll taxes, some of the random essays and questions you had to fill out in order to be able to vote. But those practices were not everywhere. They weren't all over the country. You could vote as a Black person just fine. And in the majority of the country, there were some blocks here and there, but you could vote. We voted Republican majority. We mostly voted Republican until the civil rights era. That's when things changed. Right around 50s, mid-50s, mid-60s, we started to go more Democratic. LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president, said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for 200 years. When he passed the Great Society and all the welfare bills and whatnot, when that happened, we turned more toward voting Democrat because we wanted the benefits from welfare, from the so-called free money. But ever since then, the community has gone downhill. So it's not been a good, change to vote Democrat. But the reason is because we wanted the benefits, not because we couldn't vote. We could vote. We voted more for Republicans, and then we switched in the 60s.
So you're saying that the shift in the voting patterns you think has led to the decline of the Black community?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, evidence is right there, because prior to 1960, we had an 80% two-parent household rate in the Black community. 80% two parents. So, you had kids with somebody, you were married to the mother and the father 80% of the time. And now it's almost a reverse, a 70% single parent household rate. So things have changed. And one of the main things in civil rights in Great Society, LBJ, was if you want to get these welfare benefits, the father can't be in the home.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the money was chosen over a cohesive family structure. That's what happened. And then as a result, you have in prison population rise up. You threw the drugs in there. That's going to cause a big problem. They say like 80% or more of all prison inmates come from single parent households. And to be clear, here's another wrinkle to that. They say that in single parent households, a lot of it is about having single mother led households. They say if you come from a single father led household, you have just as much of a chance of going to the penitentiary as a two parent household, which means a low chance, but a very high chance if you come from a single mother household. But during the LBJ time, civil rights time, the single motherhood was put on the pedestal. That was boosted up through all the policy, because the father couldn't be in the home. The dad couldn't be around to get the welfare benefits. So they incentivized single mother household through financial reasons, through government policy. They created the single parent households that we see today.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I am familiar with the policy. I can't think of the name, but basically, was it no man in the house clause or something to that? Yes. I know they talk about that in the Monahan report, which has been floating around in the Black YouTube conversation for some time. Yeah. I actually need to go back and review that, because I kind of skimmed that maybe a year or two ago and wanted to go back and read it with a fine-tooth comb, because I know there was a lot to unpack there. So yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation about the single parent households. There's been a lot of debate as to what is driving it. Have some people say it's just, these women just need to close their legs, or they just need to be more self-disciplined. And then you have others who it's like, no, like there's systems behind that. And there's always been this really interesting debate. But being someone who really preaches marry before you carry and the power of abstinence, I think we can look at the results today and know that something is obviously off. I don't pretend to be the expert exactly on what are all the variables, but there are some really, really large problems going on. And I don't like how the single parent, single mother culture is, if it's not celebrated, it's at least codified.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you don't want the woman to feel shame. And I'm not in the position of just trying to shame a person. Like if somebody's made bad decisions, I feel like normally they're already going to feel shame. But it's like, I also don't want to minimize the fact that if you do something bad, you're going to have bad results. Like you can't, there's really no way around that. And you want to make sure the person knows that. So hopefully younger generations will go up and follow behind. So really interesting points. Again, guys, if you're on here, hit the like button, like, share, subscribe. As always, guys, be nice in the comment section. I mean, I don't think I've seen anything crazy, but guys, just don't be crazy. I know I got some lefties in here. I got some people on the right. And, like I said, this is a platform I'm open to any of you guys. Today, I'm here to just listen and learn. That is the purpose of today's conversation. I'm not trying to shove any positions on anybody's throat. I just believe in having a platform for people to go and voice their opinion so that I can learn, because I don't pretend to be an expert in politics at all. So again, thank you guys for being here. Okay, so on to the next question. What do you think? Because I've heard this recently, and I've also kind of noticed this trend a little bit on like Black men being blamed for the loss of Democrats or whatever, and this whole idea of like, oh, they're not they're not voting for us, they're like leaving us behind, or whether or not that's actually true, who knows. But what would you say is behind the black male shift to the Republican Party, if that even exists? Or maybe that's a myth, but if it exists, what do you think is driving that?
Well, we saw exit poll data in the 2020 election that says that Trump won in every other group aside from white males. Meaning, when I say won, I mean he gained. So he gained votes in every group, black males.
Okay.
But except for white males, I think maybe even black females, which is kind of surprising because when you're talking about you're talking about the data,
very surprising.
I saw one statistic. I might be a little bit wrong, and if anybody can correct me in the comments, please do. But I saw one stat that said it's either 20 or 30. It might have been 20% of black males under 30 voted for Republicans. It might have been 30. It might have been even higher than that, which is much higher than the usual, probably about 12, maybe not even 12%, probably like 8%, because overall it's like a 92% rate of us voting for the Democratic Party. So to have 20 or 30% of black males under 30 vote for Republicans, it's a big. We're starting to see that change. So if that number stays consistent as these men get older, you're going to have that kind of thing just increase the overall numbers of black men voting for the Republican Party, and as a result, the entire community voting that same way. Because if you have these guys starting families, getting married, or whatever, you're probably going to have their kids vote the same way at a certain point. So the data does say there's a shift in black men going to the Republican Party. And I just feel like a lot of black men are tired of being bullied by anybody, by the community, by their significant others, by their parents, by Joe Biden or whoever. You know, we're tired of being bullied. We don't want to just get told what to do anymore. And we see things are not working. Go to these Democrat-run cities where the black community exists. Things are not going very well. We're fleeing these areas for greener pastures. It's so weird because I live in Tennessee, right? I'm in Chattanooga, which is about an hour and a half from Atlanta. I'm right here. I'm in Atlanta all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so weird when people move to Georgia and complain about the politics. It's like, okay, you came from Cleveland, Ohio. You came from Detroit, Michigan, LA, New York. You came from these liberal democratic utopias. You fled here and want to complain, and you want to vote the exact same way you did before you left, and you're wondering why things are not going the way that they should be going. It's because you don't really get it. All the politics, all the things that you complain about make this place a good place to be. And a lot of black men are recognizing that. We leave these urban inner city areas, liberal Democrat hellholes, and go to Georgia, not even Atlanta. We go to somewhere out south, way past Atlanta, and we're like, hey, it's nice out here. I like where I live. I like my neighbors. I like the safety. I like the quiet. I like not being charged my firstborn child to live in the home. I like that. And they want to continue that same way.
Okay.
You say, no more of the bullying, no more of the shaming language. I'm going to do what makes the best sense for myself and my family.
Okay. That makes sense. And so are you saying that's a really powerful, you're saying men under 30, black men under 30, you said it was 30% of them are voted Republican? I want
to say at least 20 to 30%, because I remember the statistic, and I think it was at least 20, because I did a video about this a while ago.
That's pretty powerful. And you know what? Actually, that's pretty consistent, because there was some data that I ran across a few months back saying that just younger men in general are shifting to more of a Republican conservative point of view. And you know, there's different theories as to why. Is it just backlash about feminism, the different policies where they feel men have definitely felt marginalized. So there's different theories around it, but that is interesting. At the same time, you kind of have this push for more sexual liberalism and just, quite frankly, promiscuity among women, which I am against. Like, usually if you see men shifting more conservative, right, you're thinking more family values, you're thinking more traditional, like I want to settle down, I want to have a legacy, you know, those kinds of different things. So it's quite interesting to see that juxtaposition. Do you think that Black women will ever start to shift more towards conservatism? do you think they're going to embrace or continue to embrace liberalism, continue to embrace the Democratic Party?
See, now we got to go back to what I was saying earlier. Okay, you got to kind of like compartmentalize a little bit. You got to put the Black community in segments. 70% of those who make under $30,000 a year do not vote at all. 70%. So that's going to be the majority of us, unfortunately, that are just simply not going to vote. So then who's voting? Who's actually going to be out there? Who are these women voting? Is it like the lady in the hood is just trying to scrape by doing whatever, a bunch of kids?
Yeah.
Probably not going to be her. The same way it won't be the dope boy on the corner. He's not going to be voting. It's going to be the professional women, the career women. I don't need no man. Some women are like that. Not all, but some. So if that's their mentality already, why would they vote Republican? The Democrats, that appears to be the more appealing approach because first of all, they're going to hit you with the emotions. They're going to hit you with all this woke stuff and to make you feel good. Oh, you're doing the right thing for the community. You're doing the right thing for your people. It just kind of ties into what's going on. And then let's not forget about the K through 12 indoctrination, not only K through 12, but also college. And women typically are going to be more followers. They're going to be, it's easier to lead a woman down a path than it is a man.
Yeah.
A man will be more resistant. He'll be more able to fight back. Not all of us, some of us are just going to do whatever, and just submit. But women, they'll do that more. They're more likely to do it. So K through 12, college, they're indoctrinated. It's going to be hard to break that when they get to be an adult, especially when their lifestyle kind of ties in to the whole Democratic thing. You spoke on a little bit, the whole promiscuity thing.
Yeah.
Part of it, they push that out there. They're talking about drag queen story time. If you're not familiar with that, and if the audience is not familiar,
okay. I think I'm familiar with it because I happen to live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, yeah, you're right in the belly of the beast, huh?
But it's interesting though, because now here's the crazy thing about California. I mean, the Bay Area specifically where I'm at, you'll see literally just about anything, all races, all cultures, all gender spectrums. You'll see literally everything. But all I have to do is drive 30, 40 minutes and I'll be in a very staunch Republican area. And I think that's one thing people don't understand about California. I think it's the more populated areas like, the LA, right? Or like out here in the Bay Area, you'll get a lot of liberalism, but there are pockets out here in California that are extremely conservative, where you see people wearing literally MAGA hats. We're wearing MAGA hats. We're like promoting Trump. So it does exist, but I happened, I think, to hear about the drag story time just because I'm in the Bay Area. Yeah. Those kind of more liberal, either policies or ideas tend to start here. So I heard about it because it started here, like in my backyard. You know what I mean? I've never went, obviously, but I have, different friends who are in particular school districts, and that's been. My mom taught. Actually, she just retired, but she's taught for decades. In the last couple of years, she talked about how strange it was for her to have to really start to learn pronouns, and she had like a first grader who was transitioning, and she's like, I don't know how to deal with this. This is different than the last 40 years of me teaching. So yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. But see, the thing is about like a drag queen story time, you don't see really many Black folks participating in it. But the point I'm making about that is if you see an event like that, it'd be a lot of the white moms bringing their children because they think this is a way for them to be virtuous and not racist. I don't know how you link drag queens to Black people and racism, but
I hate that. I must say I hate that connection. I hate how somehow, like, even if you see like terminology and things that were literally connected with like civil rights and fighting racism, and now that's been co-opted by the LGBTQ. And here, like, I'm not one who hates against that community or anything, but somehow it's kind of been lumped together like they're the same cause, and I'm like, they're absolutely not. Absolutely not.
They're not. Like, have you seen the pride flag where they put the black and the brown stripes on it?
I don't think. Is there a new flag now?
It's a bunch of flags. It's a lot of flags. Like, it's a million flags. But the pride flag, if the audience doesn't know, the rainbow flag, they took that from Christians, by the way. So they made that be the gay flag. And then on the gay flag, they got a bunch of new colors. They got black and the brown stripes for Black and brown people. Now, I don't like that. A lot of guys that are like me, Black guys, they're like, nah, what's that got to do with us? It's like, if you gay, that's your business. I'm not a hater.
Yeah, you're not a hater, but like, don't lump me in it.
It's like, what's that got to do with me? Like, I mean, if somebody's Black and brown and they gay, then they should be up under the regular. You don't put them on there. And then on top of that, they put the trans flag, the trans colors in the gay flag, the non-binary. They put everything, and they want to lump us in there. And I think,
yeah, and I don't rock with that.
yeah, we're starting to see that. We're trying to get away from it.
Well, you know, and it's interesting because even going back to, I saw somebody in the comment section mention it, right? When they were like, what was it? The no voting, no bucking video.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible. I was almost like, if the Republicans funded this as a way to get Democrats to vote Republican, like I was trying to think, because I was like, no way somebody could do that. I didn't want to believe that somebody sat down in the Democratic Party and was like, let's do this. I'm like, maybe this was like some strategic way to try to get people to vote. I don't know. But nevertheless, I know people who are like hardcore lefties or who are very much Democratic, and they're just like, this video alone makes me want to vote Republican, because it was a total slap in the face to Black men. It was first of all, it's like, if you were trying to speak to Black men, you did a horrible job. Whoever came up with that idea knows nothing about Black men. Like, they were obviously speaking to Black women in the current ethos. And I don't want to say all Black women are like that, but you know what I mean? Like the kind of liberal modern woman mindset, like, that's not appealing to Black men. You have a gay man, you're trying to shame them. He's like prancing around. They're like, you have this Black man there as if he's just like some simp who's controlled by his sexuality. Like, it just, everything about it to me was just so off code, was just so like, so I know countless Democrats, Black men, who were like, that video alone makes me question this whole I would like vote Republican just to try to spite y'all for having the nerve to put out that video. And I don't know if that kind of speaks to what you were saying earlier about there being this discontent with a particular party that says that they're about you, but quite frankly doesn't necessarily speak to the issues that men and Black men in particular have. I think that video to me was a prime example of just like, oh
yeah, that was crazy. I saw that video. I was like, man, see, this is what they do. And then they don't even really care. They put that kind of stuff out there and get it to the lowest common denominator, because there's no real kickback. It's like, well, they're still going to vote for us regardless. You can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. It's like when Joe Biden said, hey, vote for me, you ain't Black. I'm paraphrasing. That's pretty much what he said.
Horrible.
Like, he said that before the election. Like, he's on the Breakfast Club, a highly respected love show by the Black community. To Charlamagne, they got it right there in his face. Hey, vote for me, you ain't Black. And then we still want to vote for him. So it's like, why would they do anything that's respectful or any kind of way kind? What's the purpose? Like, there's no reason for them to do it. They could say whatever they want to us, and we'll keep voting for them.
It's difficult because that was a really horrible. I do actually, this isn't a question per se, but I actually didn't want to ask this because this is one thing that I've heard. It says the Democratic Party, no, it's not that one. I think this is one. This one. I think more Black people would vote Republican, but there is too many open racist white folks that Black Republicans don't check. What do you think about that? This is something that I've heard in general, where it's like, I agree with a lot of policies. I agree with a lot of the family values. I agree with just the, socially a lot of the ideals, but there's just too much racism, or there's too much of that being unchecked. What would be your response to that?
I mean, I feel like that's not even really, that's somebody, I'm not trying to attack this person, but I'm gonna say this. People are racist on both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm. When we call out people that's on the right, it kind of doesn't really get appreciated. It doesn't really get recognized.
Okay.
And then when we call people out on the left, it gets excused. I spoke about Joe Biden. Hey, vote for me or you ain't Black. How is that not a racist statement? Like, what's that got to do with the race? Because Charlamagne was asking him the question, what are you going to do for the Black community? He was like, look, vote for me or you're not even Black. And then the so-called apology, the apology was like, I was speaking too cavalier. Too cavalier? How about you say, I'm sorry for being racist? And it didn't even make a difference because we still went out and voted for him. So it was like, people just, they could see a thing like that out in the open. We call them out and don't nobody care. And then we call out guys like Nick Fuentes or whatever. I've made videos about this guy being racist and other guys being racist. Okay. I've called him out in the Republican Party. I've called out people that are elected officials in the Republican Party, and it gets totally ignored because already your mind is Republicans racist, Democrats not racist. So it doesn't really matter what I show you on the left as far as racism, open racism. It doesn't even make a difference. That will get ignored because you think that they're not racist. And if I say things about those that are on the right, it's not going to get appreciated because you're not really trying to be convinced anyway. So it's just kind of it's kind of useless in my opinion.
So you're saying it's like, look, it obviously you'll find it on both sides, but there's somewhat already an expectation that it's going to be in the Republican parties and it's not going to be the Democratic. So when you see the Democrats, people just overlook it or they'll kind of downplay it. And the Republicans, when people call it out, they'll downplay it and then focus on. So you don't think people are being neutral or equal about it. They just assume this one's racist, this one is not racist.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to make a difference. Like, it doesn't really matter what I say. If there's somebody's opinion already and they're 40 years old, they're not really going to change their mind for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. No. Interesting. Yeah. No. That comment from Biden was like,
I mean, out in the open. Like, it wasn't even. It didn't hurt him at all. It didn't hurt him one bit.
Wasn't there? I don't even remember. I don't know the full details, but I heard there was something that happened recently where I think it was his wife. I guess it had some. I think it was, what was it? It was like a basketball player or something. Who a black basketball player, I think.
Oh yeah, you're talking about in women's college basketball. You're talking
something
about
something like that. And I heard there was some pushback because it was like normally.
Okay. Let's get into it. So here's what happened. We're talking about women's college basketball, NCAA basketball tournament, and you had Angel Reese, and there was another woman, I forget her name. But Angel Reese is black. She plays for LSU. Remember the whole thing about this? I don't know if you saw that on the news. But basically, the white girl, and you guys in the chat know what I'm talking about. The white girl on the opposing team on Iowa. Iowa is an all-white team. For the most, might be like one black girl on the team. They're mostly an all-white team. So the star player on Iowa, she's going around taunting people, saying, "Hey, you down 15 points, shut up," doing a Tony Yayo in the face. She was doing that throughout the entire tournament to other teams, to other players. So of course, when she gets to the next team, they're going to see that. They're going to know that, talking all this stuff. So what happens when you talk all this stuff, you do all these gestures, when you lose, what's going to happen? You get the same thing in return. That's sports, and everybody knows it. So then when the black girl, Angel Reese from LSU, does this, the Sonya Yayo and taunts the white girl, oh, that's disgusting. That's horrendous. Whoa. Wait a minute. Was it disgusting and horrendous when the white girl did it?
Okay.
Matter of fact, I called that out. Do I get credit? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. But anyway.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Now, speaking about Jill, now the winning team in any tournament, whether it be professional, college, or whatever, they get invited to the White House traditionally. It's been that same way since the 1860s. You never invite the losing team. So what does Jill Biden do? We should invite Iowa. They played great. Huh?
Yeah.
Why would you invite the losers? They lost. Why would you take away from the all-black team, LSU, and bring on the all-white team?
Yeah.
It never happens in the history of the white, going back to 1868. Okay, why would you do that? You see what I'm saying? Again, I call it out. I call that specific. I said that same thing on my video. No credit.
Okay. Now that, again, I don't pretend to be an expert. So your explanation, I could see how that could be a point where it's like, if you already kind of have a bias towards a particular party, you might be more looking and expecting this and then not expecting it on another end. And so, yeah, I could see how things could be overlooked. I mean, obviously it exists on both sides, but if you're not consistent about calling it out wherever it happens, then that can be a problem. I can understand that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so on to the next question. So do you support President Trump and the MAGA movement?
Well, I support Trump. Like, I'll put it to you this way. As far as like the election, that's a whole different story. I like what Trump did in 2016 and 2020. I think going forward, it's going to be hard to get him elected again because people have been brainwashed by the whole January 6th thing. So it's going to be kind of hard to get him elected again. If it was up to me, I would say you should put DeSantis in there because he'd be more electable. But if Trump was to get the nomination in the primary election, I vote for Trump. I vote for either one of those guys. Whoever gets it on the Republican side, I'm gonna vote for him. The nomination that is through the primary election. I'm sorry. What was your question? I kind of got lost.
No, it was just if you support President Trump and the
okay, that was my next part. Now, so I support Trump in general, but the MAGA movement, it depends on what you mean, because you got some people that are just regular, hardworking Americans, and they really want to change the country. I support that. Then you have some people that are not. They're kind of weird. A lot of bad actors, false people in the movement. Just like January 6th, that whole thing. You had a bunch of guys that claim to be so-called MAGA, but really were not. Federales, people that are, paid informants by the FBI, they got in the mix. I've seen some of these guys. I met them in person. You could kind of tell what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I'm not going to name the group, but there was one group before January 6th. One of their lead guys went down there with the other group.
Uh-huh.
Like it was like a few guys. He was down there. He was a leader. The FBI picked him up night before January 6th. And then the rest of the group was allowed to go out there and get locked up. So what you call that? Probably a Fed, probably an informant or something like that. Stuff like that goes on. I don't support that stuff. I don't support subversive people that want to come in and try to make all of us look bad. So I support those that are just regular, everyday, hardworking Americans, but those that are trying to derail things, make us look bad, I don't support that part of it.
Okay. That makes sense. What would you say, because I know you mentioned you would vote for Trump or DeSantis, what would you say about the banning of Black AP courses and particular books that are about diversity under the guise that they're woke or promoting trans LGBTQ? What would you say about that?
That's a really good question, because the media has done a very good job at framing that as something that it's not. Speaking about Florida specifically, and he's banning certain courses. Well, here's the thing about that. Let's go back to what I said earlier. See, this is a great. You're fantastic at this, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's go back to what I was saying earlier about the pride flag. You have the regular colors in it, and then the black and the brown. So, what if I told you that in some of these Black history AP courses, they put gender queer theory in there into Black history? How would you feel about that? Would you think that's a good course to teach kids about Black history? I'm not sure that queer theory really goes into the mix there. I'm not really sure that non-binary culture fits into Black history. You see what I'm saying? They're trying to make being Black the same as being gay. They're trying to change history by framing civil rights as a gay movement when it was not. It was about Black people. So why are we trying to mix the two? So the media will say, oh, he's trying to ban Black history. But in reality, he's trying to prevent the LGBTQ LMNP movement from being merged with Black history. So I support that. I don't think anybody that's a real Black person that would really want to see true Black history taught would be against it. And as a matter of fact, he wants to have Black history taught in all forms, just not by all the woke, gender, LGBT stuff mixed in it.
Well, that's interesting, because I'll say this. I actually remember going, there was a Black history exhibit that was in San Francisco. And I think there was actually like a Black history museum. And I remember going there like 2 or 3 years ago, and I went in excited because I'm thinking, okay, I'm curious to see like what different activists that they're going to have, some of the different, Black people who have made significant challenge, movements. And I walked in, and literally every single thing in that exhibit was gay or queer, everything, down to things that weren't even queer. I remember talking to my husband about it, because about a few particular things and a few particular traditions, and I was just reading it to him, and he was just like, what? Like, that's not historical at all. Like, he totally geeks out over history. And it was like, even in areas where like there was nothing to do with LGBTQ or anything, it was there. And it was very strange, because like I was thinking, if I was a white person, if I didn't know Black people, I would walk into that exhibit and walk out and think that Black culture is queer. That I would think that they're one and the same. And I thought that was very, 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 very strange, because I'm like, it was literally all about Black history. That was the focus. And I'm like, of all the things, like if you want to have maybe talk about an activist or talk about people who did things but happened to be of LGBTQ community, I have no problem with that. But the way it was painted was as if it was all like, to be Black was to be queer. And I have somebody that I know right now who is going to UC Berkeley, which I attended Berkeley, right?
Oh boy.
He's taking Africana studies, and he talked about how he's been, as a Black male, he's had a lot of issues. He's a straight Black male, but he was like, everything for some reason has to do with queerness. And he's literally in there trying to understand more about Black history, more about his experience. And it's like, somehow it's all focused on queer. So I can say, and being in a state that, is obviously very democratic, that I have seen that merge. And I've taken offense to it, because I'm like, this isn't true at all. But it is something that I've noticed for sure.
Right. So, the media, they'll frame it one way, but that's not really the case. And that's another reason why I got on YouTube, is because so much of what you see on television is fake. It's just outright fake.
That's absolutely true.
So I just try to give you just real information, and I write on my website. I write articles on my website, and I give sources from left, right, independent, politically agnostic. I give you everything, so you could do your own research.
Yeah.
Don't just take my word for it, because the media, they give you one look. Even on Fox, they give you one look. I'm gonna give you the whole picture, and you make your mind up from there.
Okay. Have you heard anything? I think my dad mentioned this to me. Have you heard anything about tenures being removed for I think for college professors or for teachers in general? I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not really familiar with that. I've heard some things, but I think sometimes it might need to happen, because some of these professors, I mean, once you go down the woke rabbit hole, once you just do random things, you can't just hold on to your position. It's like what's happening right now in K through 12, and you got these teachers doing whatever they want to do, parading around trans flags. Yes, a transgender flag. It has like light colors in it, like purple and blue or something like that, and white. They put that on a chalkboard. So it's like, okay, you're a teacher guarded by the teachers union, and you putting up LGBT, trans, non-binary, and then you go in there and they're talking about teaching your little kids, your 5-6-year-old kids, to address you as they, them, using your pronouns. It's like, well, what are we doing here? Stuff like that is an issue. And if you're guarded by the teachers union, maybe you shouldn't be. And the same thing goes for some of the older professors that have tenure. Maybe you shouldn't have that if you are harming the student population.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to do a little bit more research. My dad was the one that told me about it, and I told him I was gonna research. I haven't had a chance to yet as much, but I was curious if you had a position. Again, guys, if you're on here, like, share, subscribe. I do want to real quick acknowledge some of the super chat. Shout out to you, Swane. Is it Swan? Yay. With the $4.99. This is the collaboration the world needs. Thank you so much. Again, Sessman, I think I got you with the very, very, very generous super chat at the beginning. I appreciate you. Game Junior 58, you are an amazing supporter and moderator. So shout out to you. Friedman's Journey says salute, great conversation. Thank you so much. Also, I saw you sent me through some articles, Friedman's Journey. Our journal. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but I will, because I think he sent me some more details around this whole idea of the trend. So again, I appreciate you for that. Shout out to you, Deanie. It says GOP constantly talk masculinity, but haven't moved the needle when it comes to men's rights. Abortion and trans are not a men's issue. Nothing burger. Shout out to you. I see first Titans $4.99. Says that fact. The Biden worked with Strom Thurmond should have turned Black people off to him. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Looks like you have some thoughts there.
I mean, Biden has been proven to be open racist, but again, since he's a Democrat, then it's no problem. I mean, it doesn't matter what you throw at somebody. I mean, anything. It doesn't even make a difference. He'll say pretty much whatever. He said the N-word before. He was reading, but he said it with a little bit too much glee. He said no N-word, just straight up said it when he was reading something.
Okay.
It's been a lot of things. Of course, 1994 crime bill. You cry about mass incarceration, but he wrote the actual bill. And then guess what? When Bill Clinton apologized for the crime bill years later, he was like, it was a tough time. We were trying to make things happen. And he apologized for that on television. When they asked Joe Biden if he wanted to apologize, he said, I ain't apologizing for what? I wrote it. He said that recently, within the past few years, he said, I'm not going to apologize for the crime bill. I wrote it. So what? Get mad. Oh, crime, mass incarceration. Republicans are racist. Your man wrote it. We're going to vote for him anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I know he has. I've heard him. What they call him, Jim Crow Joe. I've heard
That's him.
Floating around. So, like I said, I know, and this speaks to, I think, the way that I've heard Democrats complain, currently about the way that they feel like they're not being spoken to. Joe Biden being a prime example, not really speaking to men's issues, some of the shaming on just Black America, period. That that's gone on for sure. Okay. Okay, so I think I got all the super chats. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Show support to your favorite content creators. And okay, let's see on to the next question. So what would you say to those who would call you a sellout or an Uncle Tom for being open about being a conservative, supporting Trump, things of that nature?
That's just people that are uninformed, really. I don't even really get upset about that. I know it comes from being uninformed because at one point I was kind of a liberal person myself. I was really liberal, actually, when I was much younger, like in my early 20s, mid 20s. But as I got older, I just started to get more information. Okay. And then, like I said, I went back to being young and being around my dad and my granddad and just seeing what they were doing and how they operated. And I just saw what made sense for me in my life going forward, as are a lot of Black men. We're starting to see what makes the most sense for us in life going forward. And part of that process is not caring about what those on the outside think, because at the end of the day, I can get called all these names online, never in person, but always online.
Always online, yeah.
It doesn't really affect me in my everyday life. I don't even really care. As long as I know I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing what's in my heart, and just being honest and genuine. I couldn't really care less what someone on the outside says. And like I said, it comes from being uninformed, not having knowledge. And a lot of those people, they might come around once they learn more, once they come to their own realization, then they'll come around. It's been guys I didn't have arguments with on the space, on the internets, going back many years. During the O'Shea Rumble days, we have arguments, and then they apologize to me later, say, "Hey, man, you know what? You were right." And I'm starting to see what you were saying. You were right all along. It's like, man, it's all good. I ain't even really tripping. And I feel like a lot of those guys that feel that way may come around. So I'm not going to hate them. I'm not going to condemn them. All I'm going to say is, hey, man, keep reading, keep researching. If we disagree, then that's fine. You go your way, I go my way. But I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because of your opinion. You have your opinion that might work for you, but what I'm doing works for me and those that are around me. So I'm going to keep on going.
Okay. No. Okay. No, that makes sense. So you're saying for you, you think it's just a lack of misinformation, and ultimately you don't take it personal. Your position is do your own research. Don't just listen to the media, but do your own personal research, come to your own conclusions, and you see that a lot of Black men in particular feel like have been gaslit, they've been bullied, and once they start to do their own research and step away from the brainwashing and come to their own conclusions, then that is again one reason that we're seeing them kind of embrace more conservatism.
Absolutely, it's been an explosion of it over the past few years. Like when I first came on YouTube back in 2015, like I said, I was trying to find a guy like me. I couldn't really find too many people, too many Black men that were speaking the way I was speaking or thinking the way I was thinking about being conservative or whatever. It might have been 2 or 3 guys at best, and they weren't really big channels at that time. And since I came along and kind of opened that door, a lot of guys have been able to come through it. Now, I'm not trying to say these guys are trying to copy. I'm just trying to say I wanted this to happen. I wanted guys to be free, to not be constrained, to not be bullied, to feel free to speak how they wanted to speak about being conservative, about doing whatever they wanted to do, rather than just fitting into one box of what being the Black male is. Do what you want to do, be how you want to be, just respect people, treat everybody with kindness, protect yourself, protect your family members. That's what really matters. And we're seeing a lot more of that. So I don't really care. People that are offended, that disagree, if they do more research, maybe they'll come to see what I'm saying is right. And then when they do come to the light, they won't feel afraid to come outside and say, you know what, this is how I am. This is how I operate.
So, okay. So would you say in your real life, because you've been really open about your views and your politics, that you have faced shaming, that you have faced guilt as a result, or not so much?
Not really. I mean, I had some people that I knew personally get offended, but then again, people that know me, they know that I'm a genuine person. Always been like that. So people that might have been offended originally, they came around and then they began to respect me more because now it's like me and my dad is a prime example. So dad, like I said earlier, was very liberal, but he was very political. He was conservative acting, but liberal politically. That's how he was. So
Yeah.
then when I started to express myself more on social media, I would get phone calls like, "Hey, boy, like, what are you doing on social media? I don't like that. Take that down." It's like, man, I ain't gonna delete nothing. And we almost got into a fight one time. Now, we both big guys. I'm like 6'3", he's 6'3", both over 200 pounds. It's like two big bulls. We're about to fight. But after that, when he knew I wasn't going to back down and I was going to stand in my beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
it was we had a great we got even closer after that because he respected me and my ability to speak up for myself and not back down and just do whatever he said. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to take those arrows and take some of the abuse, but defend yourself. Don't just back down, defend yourself respectfully,
Mm-hmm.
and you can gain more respect afterward. It's like being bullied. This is what it goes back to being bullied.
Right.
If you're a kid in school and you're being bullied, you allow it to happen, you're going to keep on getting bullied. But if you fight back, even if you lose, if you fight back, they're going to stop bullying you at a certain point because they know, okay, you're going to fight. You're going to go hard. It's the same thing just dealing with people that are talking online, talking crazy. You double down. You don't back down. As long as you know you're doing the right thing and you genuinely feel that way inside, keep on going that way. And eventually those that are respectful, that respect people, that respect strength, they're going to be on your side regardless. And that's exactly what happened in my personal life. I had about 3 people that wanted to fight. And after they realized I was not going to back down, it was nothing but respect. I'm getting phone calls like, hey, man, you know what? I like what you're doing, man. I apologize for what happened back then. Keep on doing what you're doing. I got quite a few of those calls.
Okay. Okay. So, no, that makes sense. I mean, I think people genuinely respect genuineness, for lack of a better term,
Yeah,
or they respect somebody
sure.
being honest. There's something really encouraging about that, especially in this current society where there's a lot of just weirdness and fakeness going on. So that makes a lot of sense. And then ultimately, going back to what you were saying earlier about wanting to create a space for Black men to feel the freedom to be themselves outside of a specific box, outside of a specific narrative that says to be a Black man is to be this, is to be that. You're not Black unless you vote for Joe Biden. You're not Black unless you're Democrat. You're like, so you want a Black man to feel the freedom to be who they are, still be respectful, still be nice. But if that means they vote Republican, if that means that they felt outside of certain constraints, that they can still be respected and still have a voice.
Absolutely.
So,
That's my main thing. That was a big part of the reason why I came on YouTube. And I'm seeing that I'm making some headway. And not just me, but a bunch of other guys, because I want it to be a multiplying effect. It's like, okay, I come through the door, I take the arrows, and I want all you guys to come behind me. And it's like we get a whole army of people, and we just keep kind of like snowball downhill. We get more and more and more and more. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's a lot of us pushing the same thing. We can make a really big impact on the culture in that way.
okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what do you think? How can conservative policies improve the Black community, given some of the different things we've discussed?
Well, I mean, a lot of the things that conservatives do, Black folks move to, just like I was talking about Black folks that come from a lot of these urban inner cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, New York City, etc. They come from these cities because the crime is out of control. You got soft on crime policies, a liberal policy. It's too expensive because of high taxes, liberal policy. It's a lot of quality of life things that aren't going well. Housing's unaffordable, liberal policy. All these things make them want to go to a more conservative place where we have low taxes. I'm in Tennessee, no state income tax at all. So all I do is pay the federal tax when I file taxes, and I'm good money. So if you got a business, that's very important. What else? You have policies that actually make sense when it comes to crime. In San Fran, you might know about this. If you steal anything below $1,000, it's not even a crime. You can pretty much just do that and you won't get prosecuted. So you
In
may
San
see.
Francisco? Really?
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't know that. I mean, I don't go around looking for things to steal, so but
So
I was unaware of that.
if you ever see on the news where they go hit up some of the stores downtown or whatever, and they get, yeah, because they're doing that because they won't go to jail. Like you'll see a video of somebody recording them doing it. A security guard will be right there, and the guard won't do anything because what's the purpose? If you stop them, you might get sued. If the security guard stops somebody from stealing and it's a petty theft, quote unquote, they won't get prosecuted. And if they get injured in the process of stealing, they may have a claim to sue the store and or the guard. So the guard gets fired for no reason because him stopping you wouldn't have made a difference. They can come back the very next day, do the exact same thing. So that's going on. And how are you going to have a business like a little brick and mortar, little store or something like that with that kind of policy going on? So guys are going to say, you know what? We need criminals to get locked up. I ain't talking about people that have not committed a crime, but legitimate criminals. You're on camera going into CVS with a trash bag, a black leaf yard trash bag, and putting cosmetics and deodorants and everything, penny liners, you put all that in the bag to go sell it on the street. Like, what are we talking about? Somebody like AOC up in New York City would say, hey, they're trying to get bread for their family. Bread for their family? What kind of bread comes in a lick stick tube? I've not seen any bread like that. They do stuff like that, and it makes us say, you know what? Let's go to a place where that's not the policy. Crime, okay, get tough on crime, lock real criminals up, low taxes, low expenses, affordable housing. Okay, like that's what we have to offer. But and people know it. That's why they come to Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. Californians, they come into Tennessee in the droves. I was in one of these it wasn't a rental car. It was like we had a driver, and the driver was saying how they keep going to the airport in Chattanooga and Nashville, and they're bringing in loads of Californians every single day. They go on to Davidson County, Nashville, Hamilton County here in Chattanooga, buying up property, cash, all of that, because they're trying to flee California. They're trying to flee the policies.
Okay. Interesting. I've been in California my entire life. So I think maybe just certain things I just don't look into just because it's like, if it's my normal, it's what I've seen. It just is what it is. And I had mentioned this before too, where it's like, I think it's truthfully my husband that's probably inspired me to try to be a little bit more aware of politics, period. Because truthfully, prior to me knowing him, I just was kind of like in the clouds with some of this different stuff, just being quite honest. So I was not aware of some of those different things. That's all I could say. Shout out to you, Matt Kinsey, with the 1999. It says, ABL, when you came on to Anton Daniels to give your unbiased opinion on contract Fuentes Dats. Wait, is that? Okay.
That's why I stopped putting you in there.
Okay. Yeah. Is it right? Wing pandering list along with anti-black grifters such as Officer Tatum in Twins. Thank you so much for the 1999 Matt Kinsey.
Those are my guys, though. Tatum and the Hyatt Twins. Those are my guys. Those are really good guys. They're not anti-black. I mean, that's a person's opinion, but I gotta defend my guys, though. But I understand. But I appreciate the compliment. I think I feel the same way as Hyatt Twins and Tatum on a guy like Nick. But they may not necessarily be like me. See, I go to all these different platforms and speak. A lot of times they just stay within their platforms. They're busy guys. I'm everywhere though, so I'm a little bit different. So you're gonna see my opinion about those things a little bit more than them.
Interesting. I can't say that I'm familiar enough with them to fully know. But politics is one of those things where usually you draw a dividing line. And again, guys, my goal here is not to have anyone feel isolated. You have the right to your own opinion, and I will respect you whatever your opinion is. Right. But okay, let's see. I had a few other questions for you. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Let me think about this one. Because I'm like, there's a lot of conversation around obviously abortion. Yeah. And I think abortion is one of those things that I've seen women of even the left and the right to a certain extent, or women who are, conservative to the most liberal, like abortion has been one of those things I've just seen women of all across the board really rally behind.
Yeah.
What would you say is your stance on abortion? Do you think men should have the right to abort or financially abort? I think that's what they call it. A kid if they don't want it.
It's a tough thing. Now, I'm going to address that in a couple different ways. The first thing is about women that seem to rally behind it, that are conservative and liberal. It's a tough issue because women have been raised to think that, my body, my choice, is my body. So you can't tell me anything about my body. I think I saw Tommy Lauren. Shout out to her. I was on her show many years ago when she was on the Blaze, like in 2016. But she is a conservative person, self-proclaimed conservative, and she said she supports abortion, meaning she doesn't really, huh?
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's a prime example. I've seen conservative women even have that issue alone. So, I'm sorry. Continue.
Exactly. So she says that she doesn't want an abortion, but she doesn't want the state to be in the way of it. It's kind of, but I understand why women really support that issue, and I understand why it's a big issue when you're talking about politics, because women, I believe, are the majority voters. So if you're able to get women on the side of an issue, you're able to switch an election based on like a single issue, like abortion.
Okay.
So it's a political game, really, they're trying to play. Like I saw an ad for Joe Biden, and at the very beginning of the ad, it was talking about January 6th and abortion. Before he spoke a word, within the first 5 seconds, they addressed both issues because they know those are the two big hot button things people will vote on. Not even about what Joe Biden has done, not even about what he's accomplished. That's pretty much that. But as far as my particular viewpoint on it, I'm no fan. I think that you should be able to have a plan B, which, if I'm not mistaken, is not abortifacient. And for those that don't understand, abortifacient means that it will cause an abortion. You have the abortion pill, which could cause an abortion after you have a fertilized egg. But a plan B, from my point of view, is to prevent fertilization. So let's say there's a situation where a woman got sexually assaulted. Okay, you go to the hospital, you get like it's a gunshot wound, right? Like you get you're hurt because you got assaulted. If you were shot, stabbed, you would go to the hospital and get treated. Same way if you got sexually assaulted, go to the hospital, get plan B, and then you be straight. Now, when you're talking about when a child is developing in the womb, now we got an issue. Now we got an issue because then they're talking about like a certain week limit. The reality is when you have any baby in the womb, it's a baby, whether it be just starting to develop or full gestation. Okay, whether it be 9 months ready to pop or 4 months, 5 months premature, you could still be born at that time and live. So it's complicated. If I was to compromise, I would say like a heartbeat bill makes sense, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And then if you have an abortion beyond that, it should be banned, in my opinion. And Black folks are kind of difficult on this issue. Well, that's the wrong word. Black folks don't really understand a lot of times this issue because they don't really get that the whole idea of abortion being legalized was to exterminate us. Margaret Sanger, you know, she said that Blacks and it might have been Asians were useless eaters. So the way to get rid of us would be through abortion. 50% of the Black population has been exterminated since 1973, Roe v. Wade. So we're talking about trying to get certain things for ourselves, political power. 50% of us don't even exist. The majority of abortions are performed on Black women, despite us only being 13% of the population at best. So, and a lot of the Planned Parenthoods are put right in the Black community, right near Black community.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like we're targeted. The whole purpose of Planned Parenthood was a eugenics program started by Margaret Sanger to exterminate us. So, and then when they're talking about abortion, a lot of times they bring up Black women. So they're targeting us specifically, not only indirectly through kind of old ways that the industry was started, but also currently through policy and currently through talks on Capitol Hill, speaking about Black women and abortion. So I think that we should take that into consideration when we're talking about this issue, rather than just listening to the politicians speak about women's issues and women's rights. Look at the actual consequences of that action.
Yeah, I do, good point you mentioned about the eugenics. I think that is in the Planned Parenthood. I think that is definitely something to keep into consideration, seeing how Black communities in general are specifically targeted when it comes to that. Now, one of the pushbacks that I've heard is okay, like if you force, let's say you kind of force women to a certain extent to have kids and they don't want to, that's not necessarily going to be the best setup for the child if he or she is brought into the world and they aren't wanted. And then we know just foster care has its own systems. So like, let's say in the event, let's just say in the event, you know, abortion's completely banned, and you have more women who are essentially forced to carry through their unwanted pregnancies. Do you think there should perhaps be policies that would help take care of those kids who maybe are put into foster care, or who are put into situations where they either weren't wanted, or quite frankly, the mom couldn't afford it, but she messed up? Like, what would you think about that as far as the quality of the kid's life who's brought into a situation where they aren't wanted?
Well, it's kind of hard to determine what kind of quality the child would have when they're in gestation, when they're in the womb. And then as far as the mother not wanting it, I mean, that could change at any point in the pregnancy. She could be totally fine, and then her and the dad break up at 8 months.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I don't want a baby no more. But it's like, well, the baby's already done. So what are we doing? 8 months pregnant. And then certain states, they want to have abortion up until the point of birth. They want to be able to kill the baby right there. Like up until 9 months, they say they wouldn't have an abortion. So it's like, okay, and now you have a full grown baby at 9 months. It could be delivered and be totally fine. So what are we even doing? Like, the whole idea of a clump of cells is not even a thing anymore. You're talking about a full developed baby. Mm-hmm. So if you change your mind at that point, should you be able to take the baby's life? Should you be able to abort the baby? I mean, it's weird. And then as far as when the baby is born, you never know. Some would say, well, if you're poor, you shouldn't even have kids. That's crazy, because my parents didn't have the money when I was born. My parents got married. My mom was 18. My dad was 21, West Virginia.
Okay.
My mom did not work. My dad worked at a hardware store in a single wide trailer. We came to Virginia literally in a trailer, coming down the mountain with a trailer, and parked it right in the hood. We went from the country straight to the hood of Virginia. So it's like, now obviously, you know, I didn't continue to live that way, and I've been able to be who I am today. So it was like, they would have said, because we were born in one of the poorest places in the Union, beyond like Chicago, like inner city poverty. You're talking about at a certain point, like before I was born, there was no paved roads. Like running water might be a luxury. You see what I'm saying? That kind of poverty, like almost third world type stuff in America. So they would have said I shouldn't have been born. So it's like, it's all kind of things people say, but I think ultimately people got to be responsible. If women understood that there was no safety net or a limited safety net for them to just land on when they make irresponsible decisions, there'd be fewer of it. Furthermore,
true.
You're speaking about abortions, less than 1% is because of sexual assault, life with a mother, or incest. The majority of it, overwhelmingly, is elective, meaning I'm not ready, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Birth control. That's the majority of it. So I would compromise with like an 8-week thing. But as far as just, you know, on demand because of inconvenience, I don't support that, because really you can't really tell how the child's life's going to be. You know, it might be hard at first, but then as the parents do better, and you can have more help. And then as far as any help for the child from the government, you got all kinds of programs that already exist. And really these programs kind of get gamed by women. And I've heard about women having children just to get the money from the government.
Oh, I'm familiar with that. I am very familiar with situations that I can think of right now where that's been the case. So yes, that's not uncommon. Unfortunately.
So it's like, you know, if they're having kids get money from the government, obviously there's help for the kids from the government. It like if you're actually going through 9 months of pregnancy, risking your life really to produce a child, bring a child into the world for money, it must be beneficial, I would suppose.
I can't even say I fully understand the mindset of somebody who has kids just to get a government check. So I don't want to pretend like I do, but it has happened. I will say it has happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think gay marriage should be legal? Change the subject a bit. What do you
Okay. Now, gay marriage, no, because it's not even because I hate people that are gay, because I got gay friends. My oldest uncle, my dad's oldest brother was gay. That's a whole story. That could be a movie in itself. Like, have you seen the I've not watched the show. What's that show that everybody talking about? Snowfall?
I'm not familiar with that.
So Snowfall is real popular. And it's about this drug kingpin and this whole life story in LA. But basically, he goes from being the kingpin to like a crackhead on the streets at the end of the series.
Okay.
That was my uncle. He was a kingpin in Roanoke, Virginia, and then he fell and became an addict, drug addict. He was on heroin.
Okay.
And he died at 36 of HIV, like in 1990.
Okay.
So he was gay. Now, we didn't know if it came from his activity or from the drugs or both or whatever, but that was my guy. That was my 100% guy. So I don't have any problem with the gay community. That's not really a thing. But my issue with gay marriage is that they're not going to stop right there. It's always going to be the next thing. First, it was gay marriage. Then it became, hey, you know what? Let's be able to, let's be able to, hold on. I'm gonna just go step by step. Gay marriage. Then it was the whole thing about trans issues. Then it was the whole thing about, okay, now we have adults being able to be trans and have their pronouns and everything else. So let's have the kids become trans too. Let's have 6-year-olds take puberty blockers, hormone blockers, like literally messing with their biology, their natural development, because they think at 5 years old they want to be transgender. I don't know how a child could be 5 years old and decide to be transgender. A 5-year-old does not know what they want to do from day to day. I thought I was a Power Ranger, a Ninja Turtle. I like that at 5 years old. So my mom didn't take me to the doctor to get a turtle shell on my back or a suit put on my body permanently. It's just like, okay, I'm a little boy and I'm just being a little boy, running around, acting the fool. That's what little kids do. Let them be little kids and have a normal childhood. And when they have experiences and when they meet friends and learn, they develop personalities, and then they become older, and then they develop more and more until they get to be an adult. That's the way it should be, rather than these parents trying to play God and putting their kids on drugs to try and quote unquote change their gender, which don't happen. And a lot of these kids get to be older and become suicidal, want to hurt themselves because maybe when you turn 13 years old, you want to have a regular situation going on downstairs like else does.
Yeah. So you're saying
maybe you want to have that. You see what I'm saying? So the whole thing about gay marriage is that it leads to other things. And now we getting to the point where we had drag queen story time. I saw one of these drag queen story times where there was a drag queen dancing on a child. What are they doing? That's inappropriate. They should get locked up for doing that. I thought that'd be child abuse. This was 15 years ago. They'd be in jail. You're talking about sexual assault of a minor. You're a pedophile. You're going to the penitentiary, but now it's okay. Like, I don't really get it. And then you just having so much stuff. It's just too much going on. But the first ball to drop was gay marriage. And it just goes on and on from there. If they were to stop at gay marriage, I would say, all right, cool, no problem. But of course, that'd just be the very beginning at the end. That'd be how they start. And it's something new every single day. And it's to the point now where we're expected to just respect this going on. And if you speak out against it, you're a bigot. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so you're saying that the acceptance or the passing of gay marriage itself to you don't have a problem with. It's the way that has been really, it started a domino effect. And you think it's going to continue, and it's going to continue to get more and more off the wall, perverted, however you put it, to the point to where now you can't even question things that are clearly problematic without being called a bigot or without being shamed or whatever it may be.
That's right. Because before gay marriage, this stuff about children being trans, all that kind of, it didn't exist. That was the first domino, and here we are.
Interesting. Quite interesting. What are your thoughts? I don't know if you want to go in a little bit more detail, but do you have maybe any predictions as far as trans rights? What's going to happen? What they're going to be pushing towards more? I have seen a few. I think there's one YouTuber I follow in particular. I can't think of her name. I think it's like Blake something, but she's trans.
Blair White.
Yes, Blair White, and talks a lot about, I think, the other side of trans that is not necessarily talked about, detransitioning, people having botched surgery, things of that nature. Do you think, or what do you predict is going to be maybe the future of trans activism rights, what they're going to be pushing for, and the pushback they may receive?
Well, what's going on right now is that they're pushing to get into women's spaces. That's really the main thing, because, you could be transgender and be either person, like I've met a person that was a biological XX female,
Mhm.
but then identified as male. Clearly, it's a little woman, 5'1", petite. It's like you fun size. Like, what are we doing with the beard anyway? They are identifying as a male. They're not going to be in spaces with men necessarily. You know, not in a locker room, not trying to play basketball, nothing like that. These are things that biological men do. Okay, you got a bunch of biological men that will simply identify as women to get into women's spaces, bathrooms, locker rooms, and of course, you're going to have sexual assault. You're going to have indecent exposure. That's already been happening. We've already seen this in bathrooms, locker rooms. It was a story about the swimmer, Leah Thomas, the big 6'4" Michael Phelps looking character. Okay. This guy's in the locker room with other women, still got his full male genitalia, and he's in the locker room with the women undressing. They're covering up, like, what are we doing? Normally, you can just undress in front of other girls and it's fine. It's not really a big deal. But a man's in here with his stuff, and he's not gay. He still likes women. He might say, "Oh, I'm lesbian," but you're a man. You like women. That's normal. You're a heterosexual male. Okay. So, and he's in there. So it's like, what do you do? That's going to cause a lot of problems. So you're going to see a lot more of that happening. And then as far as the drugs are concerned, you having these children that are getting on these puberty blockers, hormone blockers. They're getting mastectomies at 13 years old. They're getting their Johnson removed at underage. They're going to have a lot of problems developmentally because in Sweden, they have a lot of experience with these drugs, the puberty blockers. What they're finding is that a lot of the girls, their spines don't fuse properly. So they kind of hunched over at 30 years old, and they die early too. They die in their 30s because of these drugs they get put on. Because again, you're supposed to have puberty, your cycle, all of that as a woman to develop normally. It's just like being a baby. You have stages of development. And if those are interrupted or changed at all, you're going to have problems when you're born. Same thing if you have drugs put into your system at a young age constantly, that's going to change where you develop, and you might not be able to live to be a fully complete human being. We're going to see that start to happen in the States. Then it's going to be a problem. Then it's going to be a whole medical scandal. Then they're going to try to apologize. And I think only at that point where they try to roll things back, unless we can get some real strong guys in office that can roll all this stuff back. If they can't do it, it's going to be a problem. We're going to see things like this persist. And really, lastly, I think that it would just come down to women speaking out against it, because this affects women normally, mostly. Men are not going to be affected by this. We're not going to have women coming into the bathroom trying to assault us. We're not going to have them trying to come locker room and assault us. We're not going to have that. It'll be you guys as women they got to step up and say something about it.
You know, because I've already seen this trend a little bit of women and trans women beefing about who's prettier, who can get men more. Like, I've already kind of seen this beef, and I was talking to my husband about this. I was like, wouldn't it be crazy if you had like literal trans women who, for whatever reason, didn't like cis women, were actual legitimate misogynists, got into positions of power. Maybe they're the boss, maybe they're whatever, they have influence, and they specifically targeted cis women because they saw them as competition. Because I'm already seeing this. In certain ways. And I mean, you mentioned sports. I've seen it online on different trans women getting into it with cis women over who's more feminine. Like, I've seen it on a smaller scale, and I've always wondered, like, can this go like really, really, really bad to where there's a different kind of misogyny going on now? I don't know. I don't pretend to be an expert, but it's a very peculiar. That's all I can say.
It's already happened on a big stage. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter. You familiar with that?
I know. She's kind of been canceled because she was, I think she's called a TERF, right? Like a trans
exclusionary radical feminist.
Yes, and she does not. I think she got canceled for being like, she doesn't rock with trans, because I think that she thought that trans could basically turn around and oppress women. From what I understand, that was her position.
Yeah.
So about it, right?
Yeah. So it's like you're seeing it in real time. You got the author Harry Potter like being canceled by men. Really, that's ultimately what it is, for not being enough of a woman. I don't really understand what they're trying to do, but whatever.
It's kind of one of those things, you know, because anytime I make a position, I try to make sure that I've thought through it. I've looked at all the different details, and to me, quite frankly, there's so many crazy things going on right now. I'm just kind of like, I'm a little bit speechless. I'm like,
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out how to verbalize, how to make sense of it. Because certain things to me, quite frankly, don't make sense. To be quite.
Oh, no, this right here is coming right here below me. So there was a guy, a so-called trans guy, who, you know, a biological XY with his full body parts. He got locked up and he went to women's prison, and he gets not one but two inmates pregnant in the prison.
I think
inmates like, so you know, it's bad enough you got to worry about in the male prison. It's assault going on between the men. Bad enough. Same thing with the women. But imagine you got to worry about assault from a man in the female prison, and then the girl get pregnant.
Yeah. All I can say is, if there's not more policy or balance given to trends in female sports, then I think female sports as we know it will not be female sports, or it'll be trans female. Like, because I'm like, there is no, I don't care however you try to spin it. Like, science of biology is science of biology. You're not competing as a woman, even if you're like the exact same height and the exact same weight. It's like, women don't have the same amount of muscles. Like, there is no competition as far as physical strength. So
your body is different. It's just
yes,
people.
Period. It is absolutely different. I want to say that women only have like, I think only like 40% or something of the upper body strength as men, something like that. So it's like, I don't care how much you try to lift weight in, you know, push-ups, like there is no. So it'll be interesting to see how things unfold for sure.
Definitely.
So what are your thoughts on no fault divorce? Do you think women should have the right, or anyone should have the right to divorce default?
Well, the thing about no fault divorce is the consequences. Okay, so if we're going to have no fault divorce, then we can't have the law so skewed against the men when it comes to divorce.
Okay.
Like, half of your assets taken away, you don't get kids most of the time. You got to balance the laws to be fair to both sides. That's what I would say. The whole child support thing, you can get locked up for not paying child support. You know, we shouldn't have any kind of debtor's prison, but we do, because if you don't pay child support, you're in the arrears, you get locked up, they're garnishing your wages. It's a whole mess. Like, the laws are not in favor of men. That's the actual problem. No fault divorce is not the issue, in my opinion, because you should be able to leave if it's really bad or whatever. Or if you just don't want to be married anymore, whatever, you should be able to leave. But if you do that, then it shouldn't be like, let's say, for example, you're married 10 years, you're in California, right away, you get all kinds of rights and benefits. Okay. And then she says, okay, I'm done, no fault, I'm out, let me get half. That's not fair. That's not right at all. So that kind of thing needs to be ended. If we're going to have no fault, then we can't have all these laws to go with it.
Okay, so you're saying if you're going to have it, then it needs to be more balanced as far as the divorce is concerned, to where it doesn't overwhelmingly negatively impact men as it historically has.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these guys wind up homeless. It's a mess. It's really bad. Some guys, you know, self-delete. It's all kind of stuff going on because of the laws. No fault, whatever. That's fine. I'm not really tripping. I ain't trying to hold nobody hostage if they don't want to be there. That's cool. But at the same time, don't rob me in the process.
So what are your, because this leads me to my next question, just regarding the Manosphere. I'm assuming you've heard about it, are familiar with it.
Of course.
And your thoughts on men's rights. Do you think they should be advocated for? Do you think that space is needed, is necessary?
Oh, definitely. Men's rights, that space should be advocated for. It's needed, because going back to the whole thing about divorce, I mean, these laws are ridiculous. Alimony, child support, division of assets, all types of stuff. I mean, just ridiculous things. I've heard about some of the craziest stories. Okay, so your wife divorces, no fault. You paying for the lawyers, you paying for half of your assets, you paying. If you can't pay, you go to jail. So things like that need to be advocated for. Men's rights in general. When you're talking about the workplace, corporate America, and you got women involved, all they got to say, sexual harassment. Now you got a problem. Now you got a lawsuit. Now you got reputation permanently. There's all kind of ways that men just don't really have rights in society that they should. So that should be a space we really champion. But more than anything, we need to have spaces that alert men about what's going on. Shout out to Coach Greg Adams. It's a good channel. He has things that will tell you, hey, this is what's happening. Be aware of it. And those things shouldn't be seen as anti-female, anti-woman. It's not even about that. It's about, hey, these are really just the laws. It's not even about the woman that you with. It's about the laws that are going on. Like I was saying, if she wants to leave, go ahead, go about your business. But the laws come into play. That's what hurts us. Okay, if you want a divorce, go ahead. But it's the divorce process, the courts, the lawyers, the money, all of that, the laws. That's the bigger issue. So we need those spaces to not only advocate for our best interests, but also to warn us about what's going on. Because a lot of guys go into marriage, they go into corporate America totally blind. They don't know what's going on. Then they get surprised. Oh, here go a lawsuit. Oh, here go a divorce. Oh, now you homeless because you lost your house that you and your wife built together for the past 15 years. You had to sell it and you couldn't get enough money to go get another house in the market. It's a mess.
So do you think there should be mandatory paternity testing at birth?
Oh yeah, right away. Right at birth. It shouldn't even be a thing where it's like a guy has to ask, because that can be a problem. I know guys and they're not trying to ask their partner because they're gonna think, oh, you don't trust me, you think I'm cheating or whatever. No. It's not even about that, because again, we're talking about laws. Because the way the law says that if a baby is born inside of a marriage, that's the father's child automatically. That's what the law says. So automatically you're married, that's your baby with no paternity test. So then, okay, child support time comes, you're on the hook. So rather than that happening, have an automatic paternity test, and then you can really see what's going on. Not because you don't trust your wife, it's because you don't want to be held legally liable when you don't have to be held legally liable.
No, I would say some of these men can't trust these women. I'm like, I'll say it. You maybe can, but I'm like, because I heard the argument of just like, of wanting to respect women and trust her virtue, her integrity. And I'm like, if we had a different generation of women, okay, perhaps. But today's generation of women don't really care about integrity. You don't care about decorum. You don't care about respect. If you are promoting single parent households, if it's like OnlyFans and casual sex and body count doesn't matter. Like, this is not the mindset of women who care about decorum, who care about dignity. So to me, I think that's just a bogus argument, because quite frankly, women do, there's not all, right, but there are women out there who do want the freedom to be able to sleep around and then not have to tell a man about it and still make sure they have somebody who's going to pay the bills. And I don't think that you should trust those kinds of women. That shouldn't be incentivized at all.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. If you like this content, you can find me Cash App, Venmo, Sade. Also, be sure to check out his channel. I dropped the link somewhere earlier on there, guys. But moderators, if you can be sure to drop his channel for anybody who wants to check out his content, please be sure to do so and support your favorite content creators, guys. The best way you can ensure that the content you like is out there and being seen is by liking, sharing, subscribing, and supporting. I saw somebody in there just like, Shay, you should have more subscribers. I personally have the opinion that I've been facing a little bit of a shadow ban. It happens to the best of us, but we continue, and at the right time, people will see this when they need to. Okay, so on to the next question. We're getting down to nitty gritty here. So I heard your take a little bit on the Steven Crowder scenario. But I know there's been some more recent developments. So I wanted to see if you had anything else you wanted to add regarding the whole Steven Crowder controversy, his beef with Candace Owens, just that whole that whole division in general. What are your thoughts around that?
Crowder has been a guy that a lot of us have not liked for a long time. People that are in the conservative space, we don't really like him because he's been known to be like this to people, not just to his wife, but to just anybody that he meets, and co-workers, people that come on the show. He does it to everybody. This is pretty much what he does. And a lot of us don't like him for that. I've known about him for a long time being like that. I haven't really said anything because there's no reason to. Like, I ain't gonna just make a video saying, hey, I know something about you. I'm not gonna do that. But then the first thing that happened was the whole issue with Daily Wire and the contract that he put out. Now, I was also on Anton Daniel's channel talking about just Pearly things and her contract with Sarah Garvey, but there's a difference. You see, they both wanted access to both people's channels, but Daily Wire wanted to pay Crowder $50 million for 4 years to have access to it. $50 million for 4 years. And Crowder was like, "Oh, that's a slave contract." And it's like 50 million. You talking about like basketball player money? Like, come on, what are we talking about? Like, nobody in our space, like online, conservatives get paid that kind of money. I mean, you got to be doing like cable TV. You got to be like Tucker Carlson. You got to be the highest of the high.
Yeah.
And these guys, they work, they hide parts to the bone on TV. Like, you're not going to get that kind of money on or Rumble or Daily Wire or something like that. I mean, anyway, I digress. The whole point is that contract was a very good contract. He was getting mad because they would dock his pay if he missed a show. It's like, well, that's how it would normally be. If you're not there for a show, like if I don't make content for a day or two, I won't make money for those days or two. As far as my new content, I have my previous content make money, but not my new content. So it was weird. Now, as far as just to explain what I was talking about with just probably things to make the contracts between the two contracts, she wanted to put Sarah Garvey on a contract where she would take 70% of his ad rev and not pay him, but pay him a percentage of the ad rev. That's crazy. What they wanted to do on Daily Wire was actually pay him a salary, a contract, $50 million. She wanted to pay zero upfront, just a percentage of whatever his channel would generate. But she did not really have much to offer him other than like editors. Like, that's not worth 70% of your ad revenue. So it wasn't a good contract. Daily Wire was going to put him on their website, a subscription service, give him access to their sponsors, all of that, and pay him. Different story. And they were going to lease his content for a certain period of time on the contract. So 2 different contracts. But that was my first issue. Then he put out his friend Jeremy Boring about that, recorded him, put the conversation out there. So I did a video about that, didn't like him on that, but I already knew kind of how he operated before then. And then here comes the divorce situation. Now, he's accusing Candace of trying to extort him in the video because she was saying, let's pray for Crowder. He's going through a few things. Let's pray for him. She did not say Crowder's getting a divorce. I know it. Maybe he thought in his mind that she knew about it and that she was trying to hold it over his head and extort him. But the reality is, we already knew that. I didn't know it, but a lot of people I know knew it for months. And when she filed divorce, it's public record. Fresh and Fit pulled it up on their stream. The document's up on stream, on live stream. So it's like anybody could have seen this. And Candace Owens did know something was going on, not because she had insider information. It's because she has a thing called women's intuition, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, where y'all just know certain, you just add 2 and 2 together. What she did was she went to his Instagram page and to her Instagram page and realized they were not following each other. So of course, you're using your brain and saying there's something wrong there. That's all. It was that simple. Anybody could have made that inference. So he's accusing her of trying to extort him, but really what he did was just get paranoid and nervous and attack her for no reason and then out himself. And in the video, he said, I picked wrong. That right there, real men understand not to do that. I don't care who you marry. You could be married to Lorena Bobbitt. You could be married to the worst woman on planet Earth. You don't say stuff like that, especially during a divorce. He's still married, by the way. During a divorce with court action going on, and you got twin boys with your ex-wife, little like 2-year-olds, toddlers, not even talking yet. So it's like when you said something like that, I knew right away it was going to be a problem because that's going to upset the ex-wife and her family. And as a result, they put the video out there of him talking crazy. He was talking crazy to his wife, talking about you're not going to do wifely things. And I got to say this, a lot of guys, they watch and consume RP content and they take things too far. Guys don't speak like that in real life unless they're an abuser or something. We don't talk to women like that. We don't just say, oh, do this and do. It's like a fake alpha male. If you're a true quote unquote alpha, you don't do much talking. You don't do much talking. Your presence speaks for you. Okay. And y'all going to be on the same page. You're trying to control her. Oh, one more thing. He was trying to control her with the vehicle. If you notice, they only had one car. But it's like, hey, if you're Steven Crowder, you're a multi-millionaire. You got 6 million subs. You have more than one car. All right. And you can afford it. And the reason why I know that is because he left her during the divorce. During the pregnancy. He left her and bought a townhouse for himself to live in. So if you could buy a townhouse for yourself, you could buy another car. But the reason why you had one car is to control the movement. The whole barefoot pregnant, you can't go nowhere. I control whatever you do. That's not how men operate. We don't move like that. You know, you got to have freedom, go run errands, have brunch with your girls. I ain't trying to control you. I'm not insecure. I'm not any of that. So a guy like that is the exact opposite of how you should behave towards women and quite frankly, toward anybody.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So I guess I didn't know he was so, I guess, controversial among the conservatives.
Oh yeah. Like we already knew all this. Like a lot of people are just now seeing about him because of the video that kind of went viral. But we known about this guy for years.
And if you guys knew about it, why don't you think he was outed sooner?
I mean, there's no need to. It's like, what are we going to do? We're going to put out a video that says Stephen Crowder is a bad person. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, it's no purpose, especially since he's a conservative guy. So it's like, it's no real reason. There's no news story. There's nothing to really say. There's a lot of guys that I know that are bad people, but I have no reason to make a video about them really because there's no news story. If I make a video about some random guy in the movement, then it's just like me hating on him. And that's kind of what it would be because there's no reason. Like I might not agree with somebody, I might not like him, but if there's no news story to attach him to, then there's no reason to make a video about him.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. So, okay, now, would you mind explaining the flags behind you? I know I saw a few comments in there who were like, we're a bit triggered by the flags. And I'm sure you know, I'm sure you know that has both of those flags. There's a history behind it that's divided Black America to a certain extent. So would you mind just explaining why you have both of those flags behind there in particular, like what that means to you?
Okay, well, I designed this one right here. And there's one, I got two more actually. I got four. I'm in my upstairs bonus room, so I got four of these flags on the wall. The two over here, it's like that, but it has the full 1776 and We the People on the bottom. And then I have like a regular American flag on the other side. But this one right here, I just like the way it looked. You know, 1776, the birth of the nation, for lack of a better phrase, is when the country was founded. It's the best country on planet Earth. Everybody wants to come here. Regardless of the negative history and our struggles, we're still the best country. You know, people from all over the place when they come here, from Africa, Europe, Asia, South America, they all want to come to the USA. They're coming to the border from all over the world. People talking about the border and they think Mexicans. No. I always tell this story. Like when you're in the desert in between Mexico and Texas at the border, there's like places where it gets really, really hot, really dry. You can die out there from exposure. There are these signs on posts. It's like a post and there's a box with a sign on it. The box has a button on it. If you push it, you could just stay where you are and help will come to you. So if you die in the thirst, dehydration, exhaustion, exposure, you'll get helped right there on the spot, no questions asked. Now the sign has 3 languages. Do you know what they are?
Wait, you said what has 3 languages?
The sign, like it's a sign where if you push a button on the sign, help will come to you in the desert. So if you're about to die of thirst, dehydration, help will come to you. The sign has 3 languages to say, push the button. So guess what languages they are?
Is it English, Spanish, and I don't know. I'm trying to think what would be the second.
You'll never guess.
I don't know. Portuguese? I don't know.
Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Because Chinese are the number 2 illegal alien group behind Mexicans.
Okay. Oh, I did hear that actually. That there's a lot of expired visa workers that are still here today.
Oh yeah, and that's whole different ball of wax. Like that, the visa game is a whole different story. They're coming over legally through a visa and staying. I'm talking about them coming through the southern border, like sneaking, running across. Chinese people, yeah, Chinese people at the border trying to run across like with the Mexican. Yeah. So my point was that everybody wants to come here, legally, illegal, or whatever. So this is the best country. I represent that. And the flag behind me, my dad was a firefighter. So when you talk about the thin red line, that's for firefighters. And then the blue is for police. So I support police. My brother Brandon Tatum book is right there, Beating Black and Blue. You see that right behind me. So, I support police. When my dad became a captain of the fire department, he worked in the police station. So I talked to the police chief all the time and everybody that was in the police station. So that's just kind of like part of my background. And I was going to be a firefighter, matter of fact, until my YouTube blew up. Then I was like, I don't need to do that anymore.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was going to be my track. Firefighter, police. So that's why I have that flag behind me.
Now, what would you say to those and the the complicated history between Black America and the police department? I mean, and then I'm sure you heard about the FBI report that was released in 2006 that showed that law enforcement was infiltrated by white supremacist groups. So what do you say to those who say, hey, this is not for Black communities? They have a really, really dark history. What are your thoughts about that, given your history and out of your family?
Well, I mean, there are bad police, but the reality is it's us doing it to us. So it's like we could talk about police and bad police that do exist. Like I did a story about Walter Scott. Obviously, the officer was wrong. He's in jail where he belongs forever. Throw away the key. You have those things that happen, but it's like I feel like that's kind of like low-hanging fruit to worry about bad police. Really, the police are the last bastion of hope in the Black community because there's no moms and dads together. A lot of times you just got single moms raising kids. So who's protecting the kids? Who's protecting their family? The police are their last line of defense because the men aren't there. The men have been removed from the household. So it's like, what are you going to do? Like if there were no police, then, I mean, you would just have complete mayhem in the Black community, complete mayhem. And it's like that now because we're trying to be so soft on crime. See, that's what I'm talking about. In a lot of these cities, they have the mentality that the police are bad. They have the whole defund the police thing. And a lot of white liberals who don't like Black folks too much are behind the whole defund the police thing. I got another story about LA. Now, forget the actress. I'm thinking it was the girl from Alyssa Milano. It might have been her or somebody else, one of them people. Anyway, this person was a big defund the police proponent, wanting to have a lower police presence in the Black community because they're so harmful and oppressive and they hate Black people. She was really behind that movement in Los Angeles. Now, she lives up in the hills, right? Up in a LA adjacent community. Now, when a boy, a 12-year-old boy, was in her sprawling estate yard with an airsoft gun hunting squirrels, what'd she do? Call the police. And then who showed up? Firefighters, fire trucks, like the whole town squad showed up to her house. But she says defund the police for us in the community so the crime can rise. Do you know that in spots where they've defunded the police, you have a 30% rise in homicide, vehicle theft, all kind of violent crime, property crime have all gone up in places like this where you have a lot of Black folks that live. So it's like, I don't get it. You want to defund the police and remove them only to have the crime go up in the community? I don't really, it doesn't make any sense to me. People like Black Lives Matter, Patrice Cullors, you get all this money talking about how much Black Lives Matter, all this and that. And what you do, you go right up in the hills, right with the white people. You go into vacations all overseas. You get in the big real estate portfolio. But has any of that money reached the Black community? Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter related groups raised $80 billion with a B dollars. Where the money at? I've not seen the piece of it. So
you said 80 billion?
80 billion, yeah. BLM and BLM related groups. $80 billion. Oh, yeah, you can look it up. It's a news story. I did a video on it. Yeah. Yeah, so stuff like that.
Wow, that's an insane amount of money. Oh my gosh, that money could have done actually so much good to empower Black community. I was not aware of that. I did know that I did hear that the runner or one of the initial owners or whatever started it, basically ended up scamming it and is living like in a multi-million-dollar home in an all-white community. I heard that. Yeah. I wasn't really fully aware of the amount of money, the logistics behind that. That's wild.
The whole thing was a scam. Like there were all kind of guys getting that money. Like there was a guy in Atlanta that was from Ohio. He made a fake Facebook page for like 300 grand. It was nothing but scamming going on with that.
Oh, that's. I think everyone's like, huh? Like no way, 80. But you're like, wait, no.
Oh yeah.
Like we don't even have. I mean, what? Where'd that money come from?
a lot of guilty white liberals that
Oh
say
yeah,
that
'cause I'm
black
like,
people are oppressed.
wow, that's wild.
I mean, we're talking about how we don't have any funding, we don't have any money, we don't have this and don't have that. Well, the money's right there, but what they do with it? Man, I got to buy some real estate, man. I got to go on vacation. I got to go Turks and Caicos. I got to stunt for the gram.
This. That I've never. Someone says I heard 90 billion. Oh, or 90 million. Okay. I mean, either way, we can.
80 billion.
He said 80 billion. I'm like, even worst. Okay, worst case or best case scenario was 90 million. That's still a whole lot of money. That could have been done a lot of good in the Black communities in particular, which we know are very much at risk. Wow, that's absolutely crazy. That is wild. That is absolutely wild. Now, okay, so real quick, now this is a bit of a change of a subject. I was talking to a other Black conservative gal who mentioned how she's had issues trying to date Black conservative men who want Black women. In your opinion, have you seen or noticed a trend of Black conservative men preferring to date or marry non-Black women? What would you have to say with that?
Yeah, I do see that, but I mean, and I think it's because you got to go back to what I was saying earlier. Like, it's not very common for Black women to be conservative or vote that way. Like, the poll I saw, I was speaking about 80%. Well, 20% of Black men under the age of 30 vote Republican. Only 2% in that same group voted Republican for the women. So at a certain point,
you said
so okay, I gotta rephrase. So 20% of Black men under 30 voted Republican.
20%. Okay. Yeah.
Only 2% of Black women in the same age group voted Republican. Oh,
yeah. Okay.
So and then it's like, okay, what do you do when you are a Black male? A lot of times what happens is a lot of Black guys that are like that, they may grow up in a mostly white community. So it's like they were always around white women, so they feel comfortable. Or when they get to be of a certain age, it's hard for them to, it's not that many women available to them who are Black and at the same time conservative and who like them and who are available. It's just hard. And they may not be conservative, but they got to kind of appreciate what he's doing and not try to get in the way. So it's just limited selection of people that are going to get along with you, really.
Yeah, I can say as a female content creator, Black femininity space, that there are certain walls that you hit when you don't speak to the sisterhood, right? And I love being a Black woman. I there's so much potential, so many great things about us, and I also know that there are a lot of issues, and I don't rock with mainstream culture. And I've experienced this just my 2 years on the channel and hitting certain pitfalls and noticing that large popular Black femininity channels promote, and usually it's things that I'm not in agreement with that I think are actually quite destructive. So as a woman, I can say that, and I can acknowledge that trend going on. So we know when I hear men say that they have a hard time finding women that have shared values, I'm like, you know what, that actually makes sense, because I, as a woman, have run into the same issue when it comes to support and the kind of channels that get support, the kind of channels that get the views, get the likes, and get the follows, maybe even get algorithm boost versus not. So exactly. I think that's it's probably a legitimate concern for sure.
Exactly, 100%.
Well, this has been. I'm trying to think. I think I have all the questions that I had. I had quite a few, so I think I worked through all of the questions here. Did you have anything else that you wanted to mention or bring up that you think I missed? Things that you'd like to share with the audience, or other trending points you want to address?
No, I think we covered a lot of things. You did.
We did cover a lot.
Yeah, you did really well. A lot of really good questions that kind of link together, because a lot of these things, they have a start. It's good to understand the full context of things so you can really, see why things are the way they are. So you did a really good job covering all bases.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No well, I'll leave you with this one last question. What is your prediction with the upcoming election?
Oh, well, that's going to be something. So you got two different elections to look at, or the primary to see who the nominee is going to be for the president, and then also the general. So in the primary, the Democrats are setting it up to where it's going to be Joe Biden again, because there won't be any primary debates, pardon me. So it'll be a primary election, but no primary debates. And that's going to be hard to have anybody else get any kind of attention. You have RFK Jr. running, Marianne Williamson, and possibly your governor, Gavin Newsom. He may run to be the Democratic nominee. And but if there's no primary debates, then it's going to be hard to have anybody else other than Joe Biden get the name out there. So they want Joe Biden to be the guy again, because the Democrats think that it's going to be Trump to get the nomination, because Trump has announced, and you have the next guy, DeSantis, but Trump still leads in the polls by a large margin over DeSantis. So they think it's going to be Trump. And the reason why they want to run Joe is because they know he can win, or they think he can win. They think it'll be a rematch in 2020. And it'll be the same thing. It'll be January 6th abortion. Trump's a bad guy. He's getting indicted, all this and that and the third. That'll be how they run. And they're both old. Joe Biden's very old. So if you had a younger guy like DeSantis with less baggage on his back, you have a better chance in the primary from that point of view of the Democratic Party. So they want Trump to run against Joe Biden. That might be what happens unless there's a big campaign push behind DeSantis at the 0 hour to get him over the hump of the primary election so he can win the primary. If he wins the primary and he goes against anybody in the Democratic Party, he wins, DeSantis. But Trump is going to be a battle, uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think with just all the legal, because it's complicated with him, right? He still has a lot of popular support, but he's facing a lot of legal issues. I think, I don't know if he still has the evangelical backing or not, or if you're starting to see some of the church, the evangelicals kind of back away. But I know for a long time they were supporting him. The prophecies are going out towards him, all of that. I don't know if that's going to weigh into how this thing plays out.
The legal thing is more of a distraction. The legal thing is more of a thing to get people scared, because it won't go anywhere. I mean, they don't have anything. You got Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, trying to get him on like federal. I mean, if the feds didn't get him in 2 impeachments, you're not going to have this podunk dude from Manhattan get him on anything. That's just a way to try and scare people, because when they campaign, they're going to say, oh, he's under investigation. What's that mean? I mean, anybody can be investigated. I can investigate anybody. That doesn't mean that they are guilty. You have innocent until proven guilty. You can't just say, oh, well, they're looking into him, therefore I'm not going to vote for him. That's silly. But that's how people think. And people know that in the Democratic Party. So they're going to campaign on that. I would not be surprised if Alvin Bragg was paid off by the DNC or the federales to do what he's doing right now to make Americans scared of Trump. That's the whole strategy to try and win the election in 2024, to make Americans scared of the other guy, and they'll vote for their guy in defense.
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things span out. I don't know if this is ageist of me, but I do wish that there was just like there was an age minimum, that there was an age maximum when it came to who was running the country. To be quite frank, I'm like, if you are at the point where you have great grandkids, you could leave. Like, I think at that point you just need to be sitting down somewhere in a rocking chair, and there's nothing wrong. Not to say you can't maybe give advice legally, somewhere, but I'm like,
yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy world in politics. Like you had one guy, even if it's not like the age is one thing, but also your cognitive ability. You had
exactly. Exactly. It's because it is a cognitive abilities, right? It's like, do you really need to have that stress? I mean, even you think of some of the young, I mean, wasn't Obama like the youngest president? And he came in the office with black hair and he left with like all gray hair. Like that's an extreme amount of stress to be under for somebody even in their physical prime. So now you're not in your physical prime, or you need to be napping every couple of hours. Like and then now you're having one of the most stressful jobs arguably in the country, if not the world. Like it does not seem like you're now setting that country up for success. So yeah, but that's a whole other thing. Like, I don't want to be ageist. I respect the elders, but I think there's a place for them. That doesn't mean that they should be at the front of the battle lines,
They should not at all.
So anyways, well, this has been a great conversation. I know we went a little bit over what I originally anticipated, but I appreciate you giving your feedback and just sharing your perspective on on these things and answering some of these hard questions or some of the pushback that I've heard from those who adamantly despise Republicans and adamantly despise anything to do with it.
That's all good.
I always like hearing different perspectives. So again, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your point of view. Do you have any other final thoughts or things that you would like to leave with the audience before we wrap this up?
If you guys want to subscribe to me, you want to find me, just go to my YouTube channel. Just go to ABL on YouTube. Just search that. I'll come right on up. Anthony Brian Logan. Also go to my website, anthonyblogan.com. That is ANTHONY, the letter B, LOGAN.com. Go to ablmerch.com. Get yourself a hat, t-shirt, sticker, hoodie, whatever you want right there on the website. And if you go to the contact page on my website, you can find my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that be right there on the contact page. Y'all check me out. Oh, and also email, same thing on the contact page. If you got to email me something, if you want to collaborate, if you want to send me a news tip, email me. It's all good.
Absolutely, guys. Well, be sure to go and check him out. Again, I appreciate you sharing your time with me and your perspective. This was fun. I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes. And for those of you guys out there, I do think it is important for you to go listen to people, even those you don't disagree with. So even if you're a Democrat and you hate the Republicans, maybe you can go and hear something different. I'm all for hearing different point of views, because I think that's the best way you can be more well-rounded, or at least more grounded in the position that you already have. So go check them out. Go check out his information. I know you say you like to provide sources for your point of view, so you're not just coming off of somebody who's uninformed.
Right.
This was fun.
Absolutely. Had a great time. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. Well, like I said, you're welcome on anytime, obviously. You guys be sure to check out the channel, and you have a great night. Thank you so much for joining.
All right, now, thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay, you take care.
I know.
All right, guys. So again, thank you for hanging out. I did want to acknowledge I saw another super chat. 2 more super chat, I think, come through with Malarkey. Thanks again, Malarkey. Okay, you are reminding me, Malarkey, I have got to put out the post about us reaching the 25K. Thank you for reminding me. Sometimes I can get some tunnel vision on like my goals that I can sometimes forget to celebrate milestones. So again, thank you for reminding me on reaching the 25K. It says to all those watching, like, share, subscribe, and super chat. She puts in the work, folks. Let's pay her dues. Again, thank you. You are such a loyal supporter. I appreciate you. Shout out to Barry Hamilton with the $4.99 on the super sticker. Appreciate you. To Trish with the $10 to supporting a classy lady. Thank you. Again, thank you guys for being here, for hanging out, for sending your support. And I think for the most part, staying respectful. I don't think I saw anything too crazy in the chat. And if there was, then moderators, you guys did a great job taking care of it. So anyways, I learned a lot. As I mentioned before, I do not pretend to be the expert on anything really political at all. I'm partially in the place of just trying to understand more. It's very, very, very complicated. What I do know right now is like, I just generally don't trust really any side. I don't know that I can say I see one as more trustworthy than others. I think you're probably going to find good and bad apples in whichever side that you choose. So my point right now is just trying to understand really what's going on, trying to understand the perspective of both. And I know, especially when you talk about Black people in the Republican Party, we kind of know that's kind of been off limits for quite some time. And I think it's always good to try to understand and unpack why. Whether you agree or disagree is, up to you, up to whatever position you come to or what conclusion you come to. But I think it is important for you to have the information or hear a different perspective so you can make sure that your opinion is grounded and based upon actual evidence and the truth versus just some propaganda or you being shamed. So this was fun. As always, stay tuned for other upcoming content. My goal is to make sure that I provide a space for people to share their opinion respectfully. And because I believe people deserve to be respected. Like, share, subscribe if you like what we're doing here. Get the message out there. As I mentioned before, I partially have, this is just a hunch, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of shadow banning going on here. So if you do like this, make sure to share this with anybody so we can try to work past that and get past that. Thank you for all of you guys who have been such loyal supporters. who've supported me from the beginning, whether it's a like, share, subscribe, even Ghost Watchers. I appreciate you. And I just appreciate you guys for hanging out, because you could be literally anywhere, but you're here with me. So thank you so much. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything else. I think that's all that I have for today. Be sure to hit the notification bell if you have not done so already. Stay tuned for other upcoming content, other upcoming collaborations. And thanks again for your support. Okay, guys, we will talk later. Okay, bye.